shower's quite hot and enjoyable and oh, ooh! The water is now cold. That hot shower you were just enjoying within seconds just became very cold. Give me 1 second. I'm not decent. Just kidding. The only nipples you're going to be seeing on this channel are these right here. So, this video is going to be broken into 2 halves. One for people who have hot water and then it goes quickly, and those who have hot water but it doesn't get to the fixture fast enough. So, there's going to be timestamps. Don't worry. For those of you who are visual learners, we do have a couple of illustrations just to kind of conceptualize it a little better. Okay? Follow me. Now here we have a small mock-up. This is your dip tube. And what is a dip tube? It is essentially a tube that is connected to your water inlet. So if we look right over here, we will see that on the right we have our cold intake and our water comes down through the tube and supplies water to the bottom of the tank. So as your hot water, let me go ahead and just get some red ink here. As your hot water sits at the top of your tank, the cold water is getting delivered to the bottom. So as you're using your hot water, this cold water is slowly replacing all the hot water that used to take up your entire tank. Now what happens here is when your dip tube becomes damaged, whether it breaks off, snaps off, you no longer have your dip tube. So what happens is your hot water, which is here, is going to be getting directly splashed by all of the cold supply water that comes here. So rather than replacing it, it's mixing and rapidly changing the temperature of the hot water that used to be there. So as you keep using that hot water, you're quite literally mixing more of the cold, making any water that comes out in the next few seconds or minutes after that all lukewarm and eventually very cold. Now, immediately when that happens, you're probably running downstairs thinking, oh man, my water heater's broken, or there's probably a big burst or pipe, but you go to your water heater, you look at your pipes, and there's no issues. It's because that dip tube that used to be there is no longer connected. Maybe it broke halfway, maybe it broke at the top, maybe it just became disconnected and it's floating inside the tank somewhere. Regardless of the fact, that is not good. Now, whether you have A.O. Smith, Richmond, or Rheem, or Bradford White, or whatever company you have that makes your water heater, it doesn't matter, electric or not, they all have a replacement dip tube, so you can go ahead and change that out by either making your own or buying one that already is connected to the nipple, and all you have to do is just put it in and you're done, or clip it down to the length that it needs to be, and then you're done. Typically, if they make them in like 50 inches or 53 inches, 44 inches, and you just need a little bit less, you can cut them. They're made out of plastic, do not worry. What you want to do is put them down into the tank, and if you feel that they touch the tank, mark it right where the start of it comes out of the tank, pull it out, and then subtract 3 inches from that. You want that dip tube to come down right to about 3 inches from the bottom of the tank. That's enough place for it to disperse that cold water evenly so that it can start heating up once your water heater kicks on. Sound good? Now I know that might be a little confusing for people, but just in case, it should be pretty straightforward. But again, no dip tube means rapidly cold water. Dip tube means nice, even, and more efficient because the majority of your tank should be hot water all the way through except for the bottom where that new water is coming in. This is the only spot that should have cold water as it's pushing that new hot water out. So what happens if your dip tube is perfectly fine and you're like, wait a minute, my dip tube's okay, so this video doesn't apply to me. You suck. Well, hold on. If your dip tube's okay, it means that your hot water, and again, some people temporarily will turn the temperature up on their water and that might fix it temporarily. But essentially, when your water moves up and out through your fixtures, it has to replace all the water that is in your hot line that is not hot anymore. So essentially, you wake up in the morning, or maybe you're in the middle of the night, your hot water line is full of warm or maybe even cold water, depending on the time of year, and you have to force that water out by letting the water run. You're wasting your money. So in order for that to be fixed, the next solution would be not looking at the dip tube, but rather looking at the other heating elements of your tank. So let's say we have the valve here that allows gas. I'm going to put a little fire right under the tank so we understand. And for people that have electric heaters, all you would have, let me just put yellow so you know electricity, you would have a heating element here, an upper heating element and a lower heating element with a little thermostat and a little thermostat. If the thermostat, which is wired to the heating element, tells the temperature, hey, it's right at the temperature we need, it will stop the circuit and it will stop heating that particular tank of water. What happens when the thermostat goes bad is it won't know when to heat up the water, so as a safety mechanism, typically they just won't turn on. So if you're dealing with an electric system instead of a gas one, you won't have the gas valve, you'll just have some kind of power source, right, plugged into the wall somewhere, and you'll have to worry about checking out the two water heating elements, which is the two thermostats or the two heating elements. Sound good? But let's assume people are going to be dealing with the gas one. So you're going to have some kind of probe that is going to be telling the valve, hey, the water is X temperature, right? So the probe is going to know that, and it's going to relay that back here to either give us more gas for the flame to heat up more, or hey, we need a smaller flame just to keep things warm. When that happens, you need to be looking for any leaks in the gas line, any issues here. If you see that it's blinking incorrectly, or if you see that your tank is not getting sufficient heat, it may be time to replace that bad gas valve, or the burner or the element down under the tank might be in need of a replacement, or sometimes the parts around it do become gunked up with sediment, in which case they need to be cleaned. For the electrical people, we are going to have the thermostat, heating element. You also do want to check the power cord around your whatever you're heating up to make sure that it is the proper voltage and amperage draw for your heater. So we're going to look at power supply. So you're going to be looking for those three things if you have an electrical water heater. Now, if you have a gas heater, you are going to be looking at the gas valve. And again, usually be a lump here that threads into the tank, and it will tell the tank, hey, we need more gas, or chill out, we're good. So check the gas valve. Of course, both electrical and gas people will need to check their dip tubes. You're going to need your gas valve checked. You're going to need your burner checked. I just call it a burner, but it's essentially the heating element under your tank that disperses the flame. Sometimes they get burned out or charred up and they need to be cleaned or replaced. So gas valve, your burner, check any gas lines for signs of leaking. And the fourth and final reason you might have your issues with gas getting your water to be hot is the fact that your showers are too long. There are some people that be, oh, I'm there for like 2 minutes and my shower's already cold. These are people that secretly are showering for like half an hour. Your shower should not be 30, 40 minutes long unless you're going to get like an 80-gallon or 100-gallon tank. So remember, keep your showers down to where they need to be. If you're trying to relax, get a bathtub. You can fill it with hot water and then refresh it every so often. But if you're going to talk about a continuous shower, we're talking about, let's say, a shower where you have a 1 gallon per minute head, right? 1 gallon per minute. So if you have that shower running, it is 1 gallon for 1 minute. Now let's say you have a 50-gallon tank, which is the standard. 1 gallon per minute, you have 50 minutes of continuous hot water. Yes? Now let's say, because a lot of people are not going to have a 1 gallon, they think the biggest, best, most expensive head is going to give them the best shower. So let's say they get a ridiculous 5-gallon head. That means 5 gallons per minute. With 50 gallons, we're talking about how many minutes? That's right, 10 minutes. Now people want this much water getting thrown at them as hot as it needs to be for X amount of time. Understand, the hotter your water is and the faster it comes out, the faster you run out of hot water. So let's not be ridiculous here. Be a little more conservative or be more realistic with your numbers. So now that we're done talking about what happens when your hot water doesn't stay hot, let's talk about what happens when your water that does stay hot is taking forever to get to your fixtures. Now remember, what do you do when it takes forever? You have to open up the hot water on the shower or the sink or wherever you need your hot water, and you sit there and your water is quite literally going down the drain. Think about how much money you are spending when you have to wait 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes for all that water to eventually start dropping some hot. That's on you. If you're rich, I guess, but if we want to save some water and save some energy, all you have to do is install a water circulation pump. And you're thinking, what the heck is that? It's exactly what it sounds like. This right here is a water circulation pump. I'm going to put an actual picture of one on the screen. Okay, so now that we know what it actually looks like, this is my deformed version of it. And essentially what happens is it's installed right in line with the hot water, and it is a pump that triggers at certain times, because you can have it set to a timer instead of just running 24 hours a day, and it's always going to be moving that hot water up through your heat, in through your piping, up to your sink, so it's ready to go whenever you need hot water. You just turn it and it's already pouring hot. Now some people who don't mind spending all the money, they would rather just have their hot water 24/7 ready at the tap. That seems inefficient. That's why the new ones come with little timers, and those will typically be set. The more expensive ones will have a dual temperature or a dual programmable setting where you can have 2 points in the day where you're going to have hot water, so it's not running 24 hours. So let's say for some of you service workers and people out there who wake up super early, maybe you could set it to, 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. That's going to be time for you to get ready, the kids to get ready, your wife gets ready, everybody's going off to work, going off to school, wherever they need to be, and then it will shut off between the morning hours of, let's say, 10 and 6 o'clock at night. And then you could have the second one set from 6 o'clock to, 10 o'clock at night. So you can have hot water at your fixture between those hours without having to wait for it. Now you're thinking, wait a minute, if it's circulating water through, where's the water in the plumbing? Now what's cool here, I'm just going to move it over here, is there is a bypass that is installed at your farthest faucet, because it's typically the farthest faucet that has the longest time getting heat to it, or hot water specifically to it. So what happens is when your feed comes in, it's going to be circulating with a bypass that is going to take the hot water, line water, which is going to have medium room temperature water. It's going to force it back down through the cold feed, and that's what's going to give it that waste factor. And what I mean by that is, instead of you pouring that water down the drain, it is going to force it down the supply back to the cold, and it's going to end up reheating that water. So that's the way to save money, because rather than just pouring it down the drain, it's being used again. That's awesome. So you may see a, if anything, slight increase in the heating bill because it is having to reheat that water, but you will see an increase in water saved, which is how you save money. Now, I have no brand, no horse in the race, so I'm not going to recommend a specific one. All I say is make sure you get a high quality one that is programmable with a timer instead of just running 24 hours a day. Now, there are some that you install right in line with your water heater. Others you can actually install under a vanity mirror or under your sink. They just need to have some type of plug. And You can set them to a timer. You can have them set to dual timer. Some of the fancier ones are digital. So all you have to do is program. Usually they might have a button or a switch or something that you just drill out. And if you want to do it manually, you would just hit it and it would start cycling that water through. If you only wanted that option of having instant water when you need to use it and you don't mind waiting a few seconds, instead of it coming down the drain, it would still be going down the supply, but you wouldn't need a timer for it. So it can be done completely manual. They also do have little, let me just draw a little square with a little Wi-Fi signal. They do have wireless remotes, so you can just hit it from your bed or something, have the motor kick on and start cycling that hot water down. And then by the time you get to the bathroom, give you time to stretch and wake up and, I don't know, throw on some deodorant or something, walk into the bathroom, and your hot water should be waiting for you so you could splash and wash your face and do whatever you got to do for the day. Now make sure, some people say that if you're going to install it, you also have to install 3/4 inch pipes. Other people say that 1/2 inch is totally okay. This is something you need to talk with your plumber who's going to be doing it. Some plumbers are quite literally split down the middle between how they say it's 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch. There's issues of cavitation, and we're not going to get into the technical stuff specifically, but all in all, a recirculation pump is the only way for you to get that water exactly where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, without having to waste money having that water go down the drain. Now, I've seen situations where you have to have a bypass under your sink, and what I mean by that is there is typically a little 4-prong or 4-exit type of little bypass tube where it's going to have 2 sides that connect to your hot and cold under your sink, and then it will have 2 little openings for you to connect to your hot and cold that go up to your actual faucet. You can have this be the only circulation pump you need, and typically when this thing is circulating hot water to that farthest fixture, any of the fixtures that are in line around it, so maybe you have a dual sink vanity or maybe you have another bathroom down the hall, if this sink is further, in theory you should be able to have instant hot water at that fixture as well. So keep in mind, go for something that definitely has a timer, because you don't want this thing running 24 hours a day. Either that or have them install a little switch, and then it could be a manual thing that you only tap when you need that hot water. You'll notice it kick on. Typically they're very quiet, so talk to a professional if you want to get one of those installed if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself. Now, some of you might be a little upset, like, wait a minute, you're making a video about a bunch of drawings, why aren't you actually doing this stuff? This is about theoretical knowledge, and if you're not going to actually do it yourself, it is something that you can at least understand, so that when you talk to your plumber or whoever is going to be installing your circulation pump or installing a new dip tube or whatever it is that you need as far as any kind of fix or renovation, you are going to be taken advantage of if you don't know what's going on. You should understand roughly what parts are going to be needed, roughly what they cost, and roughly what labor is in your area, so that you can hunt down a really good deal and at least get the most out of your money. Even if you're going to do it yourself, you should still have these theoretical knowledges so that you can apply them to literally anything you're doing, whether it's electrical, whether it's plumbing, whether it's mechanicking, whether it's painting. You should know everything. So that is what my channel is about. It is about knowledge, not specifically showing off, how many Milwaukee tools I have or how many unnecessary bolts or niche things I can do. No. Let's talk about using a little bit of this and helping each other out. Regardless of which side of the spectrum is where your problems lie, I hope this video was able to help you at least find the right part or look toward the right type of services from a plumber that you're going to need to fix your situation. And if there's anything that you happen to have a question about, feel free to leave the comment. And if I don't have the answer, I promise you I will dig for it, because my brain doesn't let me rest until I got my answer. So, thank you for watching, and until next time, work smart.